We are just into 2022, but we still have to talk about the very best comic books of the final week of 2021. And let me tell you, there were some fantastic comics, especially from DC. Obviously, here to talk with me about this, as always, is my good friend Drew from Comics Elite. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. It's a beginning of 2022. It's New Year's Day, and I can't figure out of a better thing to talk about on New Year's Day than comic books. Love it.
Well, congratulations. I know that your crowdfunding campaign actually ended on New Year's Eve as well, so you had a lot to celebrate. A new year and an enormously successful campaign. Almost hit six figures, at least on the initial campaign, and it looks like in the end it'll probably be much larger than that.
Around 98.6, 98.4, but yeah, with after back kit and everything, it's going to be a six-figure campaign. When you see everyone else having them, all these big names that have these six-figure campaigns, and you always think about, man, it'd be cool if I did that someday, and then it happens to you. It's like
bucket list. Wow. Congratulations. Let's get into some of these books. We're going to hit the indies first. We'll go to Marvel and we'll hit up DC, which we got a lot to talk about with DC. On the indies, we got to see the return of what I thought was one of the real standout series that came out in 2021. We got to see Stray Dogs, Dog Days #1. I think it's the first of a two-part miniseries, kind of checking in on the dogs. At first, I thought this comic was going to show like the after effects of all the events that we saw. It kind of looked like maybe that first dog had PTSD, but really what Tony Fleecs and Trish Forrester are doing are giving you some of the samplings, just little short stories of the puppies on what happened to them and how they kind of got into that situation in the first place. Not nearly as intense or dramatic as the miniseries itself, but if you've read that, it's a great companion piece. And I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this if they like Stray Dogs.
Oh, absolutely. I thoroughly enjoyed this as well. You know, some of the stories were funny, some are heartbreaking, a couple of them are scary. But, you know, this actually, one of the stories in here actually got me to feel bad for a cat. I'm not a cat guy. And there's a story in here what happens, a dog and a cat live together, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel bad for this cat. But yeah,
I'm not a cat guy either. That one didn't turn me, but I get what you're saying. It certainly was pulling on the heartstrings. Hey, I'll give this to Tony Fleecs and Trish Forrester. I normally hate the incorporation of social media into comic books as a means of providing information, but they told like a pretty tight little story using essentially, I think it's Instagram.
Yeah, with I think it was the Gucci, the little
yes.
I think it was like a little Mexican Chihuahua, I think is what it was.
Not many people have found the secret sauce to actually pulling that off. If you've been watching the best of series that we're doing here, you won't be surprised by Drew's pick this week. He's been singing the praises of this for a couple months now.
Echolands, #5, J.H. Williams. Look, his artwork, he's got enough power to turn goat piss into gasoline with his artwork. It is amazing what he can do. And the story is great. You know, our heroes are on the run. They're trying to figure out they need to keep running. Or are they just going to end the running, just stay and fight this king that's hunting them down? But hey, if they're going to do that, they're going to need an army. And it's terrific. J.H. Williams' artwork. He transitions his art changes up so frequently throughout the series. Like you get a Kirby style, you get his style, then you'll get like a Japanese style in the issues too. He is amazing, and it really does blow the imagination.
So you're a longtime comic book reader. I know this isn't in a traditional format. Does it bother you having to see it more in a landscape rather than a vertically oriented storytelling?
You know, if it weren't so, if the art wasn't that good, it would probably bother me more. But the fact that I'm enjoying his artwork, I'm loving it. Like it doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, yeah, trust me. Initially, when we got issue 1, I'm like, come on, really?
Good luck getting bagging boards for Echolands, but yeah, you should definitely try and do it because it's a fantastic story. And I like when people try to push the boundaries of the medium and do something a little bit different. So
compliments all around go to him and Image taking a chance on this. Yeah, he's knocked it out of the park.
There was another indie comic book that came out this week. This one from Dark Horse. I just had an interview with Matt Kinn on the channel. We had talked about Apache Delivery Service with Tyler and Hillary Jenkins, who are always kind of pushing the boundaries and limits once again of comic book art. And I know you were an enormous fan of this as well as me.
Vietnam, 1967. Got an American who's called an Apache, even though he's not an Apache. He gets kidnapped by a guy, and they're on a hunt to look for some gold in Vietnam. But all the while, they're finding some mutilated bodies along the landscape. But yeah, it's a very interesting, suspenseful story. Yeah, I cannot wait for issue 2.
It was a very light week for Marvel. They had a couple of, event type style comics, ASM, kind of some of the heavy hitters, and then a bunch of stuff that wasn't all that important. I talked about it here on the channel. Timeless from Jed McKay, I think Mark Bagley, Kev Walker run. There are a few artists. Just so well done and such a turn for the better from what Marvel had done with Incoming last year, rather than doing a bunch of little sample teaser stories, telling one cohesive story and incorporating the preview that they want you to come for the comic book anyway into the story seamlessly to where it kind of flows with there, and they're able to get the preview in there, and you actually feel like you didn't get absolutely ripped off by paying so much money and not even getting any story.
I did not feel ripped off at all. I think it was $5.99. What's the price for this?
It was a little bit expensive, but it was a tight story.
It's a tight story. It's a double-sized story. This was the King story I have always wanted. This is what I wanted from the King series that launched earlier this year, or earlier last year, rather. And I love this from beginning to end.
My review, we didn't talk about the big reveal on the last page with the Miracle Man logo.
Yeah,
obviously heavily associated with Neil Gaiman, with Alan Moore, and some great writers. It feels like they're bringing him back.
Yeah,
but there's no context with that one. But it certainly got a lot of people very excited.
Yes, it did. It got me excited because, I mean, they bought this character 10 years ago, bought the rights, and effectively did nothing with him. They just reprinted the old stuff, new covers, but that was it, and left fans like me, disappointed. And then finally, boom, we're getting it, and they better do something with them after teasing that. That's all I got to say.
There's another Marvel Comics story that I know you were really impressed with. Amazing Spider-Man has been interesting. There's been mostly ups, a couple of downs during this Beyond era, but Patrick Gleason is such a gem in comic books. I really wish Marvel would use him more.
Absolutely. And he did a terrific job in this issue, writing and drawing. You know, this issue is effectively about pain, this whole issue about pain. And Peter, he's done with it. He does not want to deal with the Spidey sense, none of it anymore. There comes a point, one of the pages, I sent the page to you, just where he effectively talking to Uncle Ben, it's him as a kid talking to Uncle Ben, you know, about pain and everything. And it is a great, great page, great story. I cannot sing the praise of this issue enough. It just really need Patrick Gleason doing more, like you said.
I would love him to be on a Captain America comic book, but I would take him being the primary Spider-Man guy too. Like,
oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Just some of his artwork he does with the webbing in this issue, I love it.
So definitely check out Timeless and Amazing Spider-Man from Marvel Comics. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Devil's Reign because that was a pretty decent comic book. They had a real big issue with it. In my opinion, we'll get more into that tomorrow. That needed a bigger discussion. Let's head on over to DC Comics. This is going to be difficult. Marvel said, we'll throw 3 important comic books out there and not much else. DC said, screw it. We're going to throw the entire library and see if anybody wants to buy every single issue. I'm going to stick with a comic that I've loved from beginning to this point. I think it's the best ongoing from DC Comics as far as just an ongoing series. Robin #9, essentially the end. It's the end of the Lazarus tournament story arc. Joshua Williamson, Roger Cruz. The thing looks like a lot of fun. It's so much kinetic energy. I do think the good guys win a little bit too easy, but I don't think the purpose of this comic book is so much them defeating the villain. It's really for Damian Wayne to discover himself and the leader that he could potentially be in the future.
Absolutely. And, the moment he has with Alfred in it, that was a great scene. It kind of mirrored what happened in ASM with Peter and Ben, just those moments like that where you see the character coming back, seeing their purpose, why they're there, what to deal with. And the issue with Damian was terrific. And the cliffhanger at the end, that's going to be very, very interesting to see where this goes next.
Yes, the cliffhanger at the end when the person's speaking, you're like, oh, the hell's he doing here? It's like, what happened? Yeah. So there's something happened, but although it's not quite spelled out exactly what's going on there. Now, I know you almost couldn't decide. This is Sophie's choice for you picking your DC comic book of the week. Where the hell did you go?
It was, I said I had so much fun reading from DC this week, but I'm going to go with Swamp Thing Green Hell #1 from the Black Label. Jeff Lemire, Doug Mankey. It's another one. It's like the square bound books, from Black Label, kind of like the Batman One Dark Knight. Art by Doug Mankey, the dialogue, the pacing, the setup, the return of familiar characters. Love it. And I thought reading this, you think it's going to go one way the entire time, but near the end, it makes a great 180, and I'm 100% on board with where it goes, and I love it so much. Swamp Thing fans are going to love this. Jeff Lemire, he did a terrific job. And May's book he did this week. This came out this week too. He's been amazing this year with everything he's written. Lemire
felt like a really strong choice to be a Swamp Thing, just for a short story there. But Doug Mahnke, for me, is the real highlight. I don't know what DC Comics are doing with him. Why doesn't he have his own series? Why doesn't he putting out multiple miniseries where he should be doing books like this all year long? Doug Mahnke's just got such a wonderful style. It's so bold when with his line art, and he really just punches you in the face. So you knew that Doug Mahnke on Swamp Thing in this kind of weird green hell story was going to knock it out of the park. And if you picked up the issue, you definitely weren't disappointed at all, because both creators brought the heat.
Yes, they did. And, Doug Mahnke, he really brings out the horror in this issue, his art, and it is terrific. It is horrific. You see bodies getting torn apart, but it is amazing. It is bloody well done. Love it.
Talking about bloody well done, this is a DC Comics week, a release of Superman 78, and we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, that's first.
Flash, Action Comics, DC versus Vampires, Task Force Z, Deathstroke Inc., Superman 78 all came out this week, and all are worth your time and money. Why the hell did DC decide to load up the last week of the year? I don't get it. I mean, I love it because there were so few comics to come out. You could actually get them all in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the biggest question. I talked to Kyle about this when we were done. We're like, what the hell? They put out all their good stuff at the very end of the year in 1 week. I don't get it. This is so weird. I wish I could talk to someone at DC. Was this your plan the whole time? I don't know. It was weird. It was great, like you said, but I did not see this coming at all.
So which one of those were you? I know you've been really liking Task Force Z. Me personally, I just think Jeremy Adams on Flash. It's right up there with Venditti on Superman 78 for me.
Yeah, it's like it's like you said, it's so hard. But of all the ones, I got to go with probably the Flash 777. Honestly, I love Task Force Z. I love what sets up because there's a great payoff. If you weren't happy with what Tom King did to a certain character during his Batman run, there's a great payoff in this issue with what happens. And I'm not going to spoil it. It is great payoff. But Flash 777, that has been such a terrific run so far. And what they're doing with Eclipso and the gems, the gem world in this issue, I cannot wait to see where this goes to next. It has been fantastic.
And if you're interested in Shadow War, the Joshua Williamson, crossover book with Robin, Batman, and Deathstroke Inc., you're going to need to read Deathstroke Inc. It took a big turn as far as the direction of the story, and it feels like it's heading more in that direction now. So if you're looking forward to that and you want to be ready for it, definitely go read that too.
Yeah, absolutely, that too. And Action Comics 1038, they're all the heroes are imprisoned. They're all getting chain bound. And there's a great moment in here with Midnighter and Superman, and you see the real dichotomy with the two. Just one is effectively still has the hope. The other one's like, screw these guys. Let's get out of Dodge. We're out of here. Love it.
It was a solid week. I didn't expect this from comic books. Normally they kind of take the week off, and then you might be able to discover a gem or two here. But DC Comics absolutely brought it. Marvel, with what they did have, was actually quite solid, and there are definitely some great indie comic books out there. I want to say thank you very much for joining me. Happy New Year, and I can't wait to keep doing this into 2022.
Likewise, Wes. Thanks for having me again. Yeah, cannot wait to keep doing this with next year. Hopefully next year we're onwards and upwards to better comics.
And if you are on the lookout for more great comic books, I just had my top 10 comic books of the year, the comic issues of the year. The video's right here. I think you're going to enjoy this. These were the best of all of 21. Definitely check it out.